Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the absolute most fascinating frontiers in parapsychology. We are looking at the invisible thread that might actually connect human consciousness directly to the physical world. And don't worry, we are moving way past the usual sci-fi tropes here to break down the actual, hard scientific data and the experiments that are testing this boundary. So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. Understanding psychokinesis. 2. The Bio PK experiments. 3. Measuring distant intentions. 4. The energy healing debate. And 5. Placebo and nocebo effects. Let's jump right in.
Kicking things off with Section 1, Understanding Psychokinesis.
Okay, so psychokinesis, or PK, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's the working hypothesis that your mind, your actual consciousness, can directly influence physical reality, completely bypassing any known physical mechanisms. It is literally mind-matter interaction in its purest hypothesized form. Now, researchers generally divide these mind-matter interactions into a few distinct buckets. You've got your spontaneous reports out in the wild, micro-PK, which deals with statistical anomalies in machines, and of course, macro-PK. Now, while pop culture absolutely loves the dramatic spoon-bending of macro-PK, our focus today is strictly on bio-PK. That is the study of direct mental influence specifically on living biological systems. And right away, there's a super vital distinction we need to make here. Explicit psi is conscious. It's an intentional effort where you are actively seeking a specific outcome. But bio-PK primarily deals with what we call implicit psi. This means the mind is producing a background effort causing subconscious physiological reactions that happen entirely outside of our direct awareness. It's totally under the radar. Moving right along to Section 2, the bio-PK experiments. So how on earth do scientists actually go about measuring a subconscious reaction? Well, they use really clever protocols like the sense of being stared at. Imagine two people, a sender and a receiver, placed in completely isolated rooms. The sender is intermittently told to stare at the receiver through a live video monitor. Meanwhile, the receiver's real-time physiology, things like their heart rate, is being constantly recorded to see if their body subconsciously reacts exactly when they're being stared at. And we see a very similar vibe when measuring electrodermal activity, or EDA. Basically, this is tracking microscopic changes in skin conductance, like sweat. An isolated agent actively tries to mentally calm down or activate the receiver's nervous system through a monitor. Once again, the point isn't about the receiver consciously feeling any different. It's about whether their biology automatically, physically reacts to that distant intention. All right, Section 3, Measuring Distant Intentions. Taking a step back here, what does the aggregate data actually tell us? Well, look at this. Researcher Stefan Schmidt ran 3 massive meta-analyses compiling the results across 1,970 individual sessions. The results are fascinating. They reveal that while the overall effect sizes are definitely small, they are statistically significant. Across nearly 2,000 trials, there is a consistent, measurable anomaly that you simply cannot write off as random chance. But, of course, this compelling data naturally pushes us to ask a really practical question, right? If these small statistical anomalies exist in isolated rooms hooked up to computers, do they actually translate into noticeable impacts out there in the real world? Which brings us to Section 4, the energy healing debate. We are talking about distant healing intention, or DHI. This encompasses incredibly popular practices like intercessory prayer, therapeutic touch, and Reiki. Millions of people globally swear by them. Yet, when you look at comprehensive scientific reviews, you find a glaring contradiction. Despite their massive popularity, conventional clinical efficacy remains largely unproven in high-quality trials. So why the huge disconnect? Well, researchers point to this brilliant metaphor, and I love this. It is inadvisable to use a sledgehammer to study the surface structure of a soap bubble. The argument here is that conventional, rigid, randomized controlled trials, the sledgehammers of the science world, might just be fundamentally incompatible with the delicate, context-dependent nature of human intention. Basically, if the tools are too blunt, you pop the bubble before you can even measure the thing. Because the tools really do have to match the subject, scientists are getting incredibly creative. Instead of relying on sterile clinical models, researchers are running trials to see if mood changes happen after subjects consume intentionally enhanced chocolate. And honestly, who wouldn't sign up to volunteer for that study?
Others are evaluating the impact of intention and belief while drinking traditional tea. They are literally trying to weave the measurement of bio-PK directly into natural, everyday human experiences.
And finally, Section 5, placebo and nocebo effects. To really ground these seemingly fringe concepts, we honestly just need to look at how we test every single new medication on the market. In standard, randomized, double-blind clinical trials, scientists actively have to account for the immense power of the mind-matter connection. Control groups receive a totally fake pill, yet they very often exhibit real, measurable physiological changes purely because they believe they are getting the active medicine. It all depends entirely on internal belief. This invisible thread produces highly tangible results. Expectation can trigger the self-healing placebo effect, where a condition actually improves just from the belief of care. But conversely, it can trigger the self-harming nocebo effect, resulting in real negative physical side effects from an inert sugar pill. It is essentially an everyday, medically documented form of self-directed bio-PK. So, when you look at all this, seeing the data from isolated labs and understanding the sheer power of the placebo effect, it really leaves us with a profound mystery. If our consciousness and our internal beliefs are continuously shaping our own physiology, often completely outside of our awareness, what other physical systems might we be subtly influencing? Where exactly does the mind end and physical reality begin? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the boundaries of what we know.